Chinese businessmen are very, very smart. They always know how to go around the line, the rules. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is James. Today I want to talk about my own perspective about the new tariffs that Donald Trump announced a few days ago. So I made a video about that, but that video was very, very shallow. Today I want to share some of my own perspective. I think this whole tariffs thing is mostly about China. Why I'm saying that? Later I'll explain. And then also recently I just saw a video, I think it's a conference that Obama was in, and then he gave a speech, and then I cut a part of the speech I really want to share with you guys. After we watch that, you can have your own idea. You can put your comments under this video. So first of all, let's talk about the new tariffs, okay? So Trump gave a lot of countries different level, different tiers of tariffs, right? So some are very high. I was very surprised. And then after think of that, I think there is a reason. I'm not just trying to say all those things is just about China, but I think there's a big reason. Remember the first term when Trump was the president, he was having a very big trade war with China. Now, I think he's doing it again, just in a different form. So this time, if you look at the list, there's some very high taxed country. Well, their top two are 50%, very small country. I don't even know how to pronounce their names. Anyway, so the high countries ones, including Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Thailand, Indonesia, those countries. I want to say, I don't think those countries really matters to the US at this point that much compared to China. However, why Trump wants to charge them so much more? Because I think Chinese businessmen are very, very smart. They always know how to go around the line, the rules. So when Trump was in the first term, the president, he had a war with China. And then China deal with it, trying to digest it. The way how they deal with it, how they digest it is, okay, you're going to charge me more money if I ship something to you. Okay, now, easy. So I just ship all my stuff to Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar. I find someone there, just form a company there. I ship all my stuff there. They put their new tag, label them on, made in Vietnam, made in Myanmar, made in, Thailand, and then ship to the US. So it's not made in China anymore. You should not charge me. You charge me if the ship is coming from China. So I think that's what China has been doing. And then there is lots of evidence that can show that Chinese companies invest in those countries a lot. And then, yeah, those things are online. You guys can figure it out. So why Trump is doing that? I think it's very interesting. So Chinese GDP, the total GDP is very heavily reliant on export. And then in that export, 20% is shipping to the US. So all the goods China is selling outside of China, 20% is to the US. Okay? Sorry, 20% of the GDP is depending on the export. Okay, export. So in this export, the 20% of the GDP, America is 16 to 28%. So in all Chinese export, 16 to 28% of Chinese goods are shipped to the US. So that's a lot of money. So if this new tariff gonna work in China, so 2025, the Chinese GDP will be kind of very bad. Chinese government, their goal is 5% increase. if this tariff really got to enforce, Chinese GDP increase will be 4%, maybe even less than 3.5%. We don't know yet. So the statistics shows that if US put 15% more of the tax, Chinese GDP will go lower, will drop 0.4%, the growth, the Chinese GDP growth. And then plus this, Donald Trump also made a new rules on those Chinese online shopping platform like Temu, Shein. I never shop there, so I don't really know, okay? So everything is under $800. They will charge you 30% tax or $25 fixed tax on top of that. So, which means it's cutting down. Americans don't shop on Temu or Shein, just shop on Amazon. This is similar to what China has been doing to the US. China stopped Google, China blocked all the Google products, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. China blocked eBay, just to protect Chinese website. For example, Baidu, Chinese Alibaba, Taobao, right? So now US is doing the same thing. And then China is trying to fight back right now by a lot of things. They have a lot of rules, but there's one thing make me feel like it's very interesting. China is going to suit US in WTO. That's very funny. You know why? You may not know, about 20 years ago, okay, China finally got passed to join WTO, which bring Chinese economy go fast, flying for the past 20 years. However, before they joined WTO, Bill Clinton at the time giving China a lot of suggestion. Okay, if you want to join WTO, you need to do this. Especially human rights is one of the biggest thing. So, okay, at the time, China agreed, okay, right now everyone is working 6 days a week. Now we're going to cancel it 5 days a week, just like the whole world. Not whole world, just like the countries who are in WTO. Okay. China did some of that, got approved. 20 years later, guess what? In China, there's a very famous common number called 996, which means 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's the regular working time, working hour in China now. I am not joking. If you have any Chinese friend around you, ask your Chinese friend, hey, how many days Chinese people are working right now? Okay? Yes, China didn't pass a new law that people has to work for 6 days from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But those big companies, for example, Alibaba, those big companies, Huawei, those big companies, they all promoting that it's an honor to work 9 to 9 and then 6 days a week. And then if you work even more, you are such a hero for the company. They are encouraging, they are trying to pushing that and then make it as a very holy thing to do in the company. That's their company culture, So I think the whole world should suit China in this. You are not treating your people in a right way, in a good way. And then you lied to the whole WTO, all the members. That's why your electric vehicles is so good. Because of what? Because the government is giving money to those companies to support those companies. So your electric vehicle can be so cheap. And then after you take over the whole world market, then you will raise up the market. So that you will raise up the price. So that's a very bad way playing that game. So I think the whole world should suit China in this. So now China is suiting the US. Let me tell you another interesting statistic, okay? In 2024, US sold 143.5 billion of stuff. So US exports that much to China. 143.5 billion. Guess how much China sold to the US? China export 438.9 billion. So almost tripled what the US bought from China. So that's how much the difference is. Okay? So in WTO, you need to understand that you are selling this to other people. You should also buy things from the others. Not just you are just making money from other people, but you are not spending any. Isn't that fair? I don't think so. So that's why the whole world is against China right now. Okay, before we go into the Obama video, this is one video that Elon Musk just said. I want to share with you a little bit.
I hope that the United States and Europe can establish a very close partnership. We obviously are, there's an alliance already, but I'm hopeful that there can be a very close relationship with America and Europe. And I'm hopeful, for example, with the tariffs, that at the end of the day, I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. That would be that's what I hope occurs. And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
So I'm not talking about my personal feeling about Elon Musk or Donald Trump. Let's don't talk about my personal feelings, okay? However, this can show that America actually want to be close with Europe. They want to have maybe even zero tax between them. So I think that's a great thing, do the fair trade. I think that's great. So this can prove that US did all those tariffs thing is really, I think, is pointing China, because of China is doing, they're breaking the game rules. Also because China also wants to make the new rules for the world. However, I don't think it's the right time to do that. China is not as strong, or China is not treating their own people good enough to make everyone in the world that adore you that much wants to follow your step, right? So now, I said in the beginning of my video, we need to talk about Obama's. I want to share with you this Obama video. Okay. After this video, you can put what do you think in the comment.
It is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person, who says, no, that's not right. I do think one of the reasons that our commitment to democratic ideals has eroded is that we got pretty comfortable and complacent. It has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are a progressive, or say you are for social justice, or say you're for free speech, and not have to pay a price for it. And now we're at one of those moments where, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. So, if you're a law firm being threatened, you might have to say, okay, we will lose some business because we're going to stand for a principle. If you are a university, you may have to say, figure out, are we in fact doing things right? Have we in fact violated our own values, our own code, violated the law in some fashion? If not, and you're just being intimidated, well, you should be able to say, well, that's why we got this big endowment. we'll stand up for what we believe in, and then we'll pay our researchers for a while out of that endowment, and we'll give up the extra wing or the fancy gymnasium that we can delay that for a couple of years, because academic freedom might be a little more important. For most of human history, and to this day in most of places in the world, there is a cost to challenging the powers that be, particularly if they're abusing that power. And this idea, and I've noticed this among some wealthier folks who, after George Floyd, they were right there, and a bunch of companies were talking about how they cared about diversity and they wanted to do this and they were all for that, and they are mute right now. But what that tells me is it was okay when it was cool and trendy, and when it's not, not so much. And that, I think, is what we have to, each of us has to examine in our own hearts. Is all right, we say we're for equality. Are we willing to fight for it? Are we going to risk something for it? We say that we're for rule of law. Are we going to stick to that when it's tough, not when it's easy? We believe in freedom of speech. Do we stand up for freedom of speech when the other person talking is saying stuff that infuriates us and is wrong and hurtful? Do we still believe in it?
I really like that man. I really like that man. And then if you watch my video, you know that I love Singapore, this country. I think one thing good about Singapore is, you may call Singapore is not a democracy country, or you think they don't have freedom, they don't have human rights there. But I just wish if this man can be the president for the US for 30 years, let's say, if he can be like Lee Kuan Yew, if he can stay in the seat for 30 years, can you imagine how America gonna be? I think this country gonna be a lot of better. I think if he can stay longer, he can fix a lot of the social problems. He can make the US strong again in a lot of other ways. Yes, making money is important, but sometimes we do need to give up something for our principle. I totally agree with that. Sometimes money can't buy everything. Yes, you may say that, yes, I'm starving. Like, I don't care. I just want to live. Yes. However, I think Obama was trying to make people not starving, right? He was trying to. The system is not, no system is the bad. No system is the perfect. But I just really wished if the US has a leader like that for a long time, can plan this country's future for, let's say, 30 years. Can you imagine this country gonna be so good? And then this country will lead the whole world be so good. Unfortunately, it is what it is now. So what do you think about what he said? Right? Everything need to have a limit. And then he mentioned about the freedom of academic freedom. I think that's also very important. That's why I made a video before about DeepSeek. DeepSeek can't be big because they don't have the freedom. Academic, if you use DeepSeek to do lots of research, it won't tell you the real answer. Chinese government blocked lots of things. They only want you to know what they want you to know, right? So anyways, come back to this whole topic. Obama said something, I think, very pointing that the problem, it's very obvious that we need to care about what we think is the most value. And then what the US does right now is, I think, is mainly trying to attack China. But because there's some other country is very close to China, so now the war is affect other countries. What do you think? So leave your comment under this video, okay? Let's discuss about this. Thank you for watching this episode.